Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Haribo, Nitai Gora Haribo. Nitai Gora Haribo, Haribo, Nitai Gora Haribo. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajagacharya Satar Satyashishimad His Divine Grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Mahanottakura Vaishnava Vrinda ki. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki. Prem Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakun Radhakunda Giri Govardhan ki. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Shri Mathura Dham ki jai. Shri Navadvip Dham ki jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. And Ganga Mai ki jai. Yamuna Mai ki jai. Tulsi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Yagya ki jai. Nitai Gaur Pramanandi Hari. All glories to the Asama devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the Asama devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the Asama devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Radha Madhava ki jai. And today is, the position of the sun is 2022, June 25th, 7:34 a.m. That's what that means. That's the position of the sun. Okay. Huh? 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 Yeah, you can do that. Yeah. Okay. Huh. like a dog, no? Okay. The famous song. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janabalaba Girivaradari. Yashoda Nandana Raja Janaranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana. Jamuna Tira Bana Chari. Jamuna Tira Bana Chari. Jamuna Tira Bana Chari. Bana Chari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Radha Madhava. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Radha Jai Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Gauranatai Radha Banki Bihari Madhava ki jai, Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. Narayanam Namaskrityam Nadam Chaiva Narottamam Devyam Sarasvatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we can, continuing with our organized study of the Srimad Bhagavatam for the Krishna house, not the animal house. Yeah, okay, Krishna house. Yeah. And today we're on chapter 22 of the 5th canto. The first 2 cantos are Krishna's lotus feet, right? So when you're approaching Krishna, you better forgive me, I'm a real rascal. I've done all kinds of crazy, selfish things. Please forgive me. Okay, I forgive you. Okay. So this is Sambandha. You know. How many people here know Saint Bernard? You're Catholic. You should know these things. Weren't you Catholic? Yes. Ave Maria. Yeah. He's a good guy. Maybe, I don't know, maybe 16th century or something. Maybe a time of Columbus or something. San Bernardino de Clairview. You know. And he was really fortunate saint because one of his disciples became the Pope. That's always convenient. your student becomes the Pope, you know. So anyway, one in the Bible, most of us here know the Bible, okay? There's the Song of Songs, the Song of Solomon, you know that? Yeah. And it starts off with, kiss me with the kiss of your lips. That's how it starts, yeah. And it's very, very erotic, but it's right in the Bible, and different people made commentaries over so much time. And so he says, one morning, he's talking to the brothers, the monks, the monks for 50, 60 years, whatever. He says, okay, because you've been purified of the lust of the body, and purified of the lust of the mind, which is for honor, prestige, by studying Ecclesiastes and Proverbs. Now we can start studying this topic, the Song of Solomon. Yeah. So yeah, after you've finally got your senses purified, controlled, so they under control, and your mind, your prestige, your honor, your fame. Okay, now we can start talking about real spiritual life. Okay. And so he gave several sermons on the Song of Solomon, and he says, yes, you can actually achieve this position of relating to God intimately through the kiss of the lips. He says, but before that, there's two other kisses, right? The kiss of the feet and the kiss of the hand. Okay. So yeah, somebody very superior, you come in and you kiss the ground in front of them. Yeah. Somebody else, your friend, yeah. And so he said, yeah, all of these exist, but he said, as far as I'm concerned, I'm still working on the kiss of the feet. You know what I mean? Yeah. We have somebody takes us in out of nothing, gives us an occupation, education, so many things helps us out, and we then debauch his wife, run off with his money, destroy his business. And then after maybe 5 years of living a life like this, we're about to get chopped to pieces by our enemies. He comes in, maybe gets cut on the face with a knife to save our lives and drags us out, and what do? You grab his feet and say, thank you, forgive me, thank you. So this is our position, right? We were all here imitating Krishna or Radha somehow or other in this material world. It goes on, in Catholic tradition and Hare Krishna tradition, and also in Socrates, So somehow or other we begin to realize where we're at, and then the first thing is called sambandha, where we accept, I just want to get out of this mess. Please forgive me, please just get me back engaged again. It's my fault, this big mess. Sambandha. And that's first initiation. You take initiation, Harinam Diksha. Okay, Krishna's God, I'm his servant. Then Abhideya is the next, where we're actually taking up the process practically. We're learning how to get up early, bowing down 3 times a day to Mecca, doing namaj, whoever our acharya is. We have some practical process. And all over the world. It's there, right? All over the world. Okay, that's the kiss of the hand. And as you're good at it, then eventually it becomes the point where Krishna accepts us as good as himself. What's it go? Diksha Kali Bhakti Karyatma Samarpan Se Kali Krishna Tari Karyatma Sam. Diksha, second initiation, Krishna accepts you as good as him. I am Brahman, you are Brahman. You are Brahman, I am Brahman. So there's all these different processes, levels, advancement, and we're talking about this in this 5th canto. The first 2 cantos are Krishna's lotus feet. Okay. You can be doing all kinds of crazy things, it's okay. 3rd canto and 4th canto are his legs, thighs. Okay, a little higher, yes sir, yeah. 5th canto is his waist. Okay, so we're already up to Krishna's waist. This is pretty high right there, when you're dealing with God. Yeah. Don't make any mistakes. Yeah. And then the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9, 10. And the Rasa Lila chapters of Krishna dancing with the gopis is his smile. And it goes 11 and 12. So very, very easy to remember and so on. So this is very advanced here. I'm surprised that all of you are here so advanced in your studies of the Srimad Bhagavatam. But why is it advanced? It's talking about the orbit of the planets, the orbit of the sun, the orbit of the moon, all these things. Yeah, because science, again, modern science, they just depersonalize everything. There was one book by a priest many years ago, a theologian. I think what was it called? It was called Return to Wonder. And he said science has made everything so impersonal, so sterile, that there's nothing wonderful in the world anymore. Nothing wonderful. As I've heard, what's his name? Darwin. Darwin was developing his whole idea. And near the end of his life, he was saying, you know, I've developed all this idea about what his life is, but I said, I can't even look at a rose anymore. I can't even hear the birds singing anymore. I just totally, you know, lost all my humanity and my theory of what is life. There's several Nobel laureates who have made the same point. You know, at the end of my long career of being a Nobel laureate in physics and chemistry, looking for what is life, I've ended up with nothing but atoms and molecules. This was Georgi, big Nobel laureate. He said, his whole life I wanted to find out what is life. And now I'm left with nothing but atoms and molecules. He said, which are devoid of all life whatsoever. So he said, therefore in my old age, I'm forced to retrace my steps and try to find out where life slipped through my fingers. Very, very poignant, you know, yeah. Since and also it's a thing of a certain age of people, because this really became prominent. First World War, people were experimenting, you know, with mechanized life. And the Second World War, that was it. That was the winner is the guy who comes up with the best technology in a lot of ways, you know. Then after that, science. It was just unbelievable. Unbelievable what people, you know, believed science would do for them. And now it's coming around to a point where people are beginning to say, you know, we got to maybe, you know, have certain other perspectives. You know, where are we going to find them? Well, what about the Hare Krishnas? Well, maybe, okay. Yeah, it's actually happening. So anyway, so this discussion of the planets and everything else, you can see how these things are related. You know, one is today is chapter 22, the orbit of the planets. Now, we did. I did Bhakti Vaibhava. I have Bhakti Vaibhava diploma. We pioneered the whole thing with a group from San Jose. And now we're going to give diplomas to devotees here for Bhakti Vaibhava. But when we did it, we were like writing the study guides at the same time. So it was very nice. So we have those. And so if I go to now our study guide for this, where are you? I'm here. Okay. Don't talk to yourself. Okay, I won't. Okay, so this is Srimad Bhagavatam. Then we combined them, you know, right? We did 5, 21, 22, 23 is one thing, right? Because you see, there's not enough. 5, 21 through 23, the movements of the sun, which we did yesterday, the orbits of the planets, and the Hirshumara planetary system. Okay, so our notes say, this planet informs us of the movements of the sun. It is a simple technical description of the movements of the sun in terms of the astronomy, geometry of the universe. Okay. Narada Muni, right, he got his guitar, travels on the airways. You see that in the Krishna book. He's traveling on the airways. Yeah, okay. The wind ropes. The planets are held together by wind ropes. You've got to understand that Prabhupada's using a different language here. And he expects his disciples to match this up with Western terminology and so on. You know, one time when I was a child, maybe like 12 years old, I found a book on yoga, and it said, "Oh, the ordinary Hindu doesn't know anything about how air moves in the body, and he thinks it flows in the veins and stuff, but it just goes in the lungs." Yeah, but you know, just right now, everybody stop holding your. Okay, everybody stop breathing. Okay, and see what happens. Just go for as long as you can and observe what you feel like internally. Yeah. This is, how long does it take to become Krishna conscious? Yeah. You just stop breathing and chant Hare Krishna, and you'll be in Goloka in 3 minutes. Yeah. Well, is there a slower process? Yeah, stop eating, and you'll be, stop drinking water, and you'll be in Goloka in 3 days, okay? Oh, it's slower? Yeah, stop eating, and you'll be there in, 30 days? Like that, yeah. Yeah, so you begin to see but that's called air in Sanskrit, vayu, prana. Prana, chi, Yeah, we know those terms. And so it is circulating, you know. And there are specific places, right? And where you're, with the chakras, there's the Muladhara chakra, which is concerned with urinating, defecating, and copulating. Those are the polite ways to say them. If you think about it, for every single one of those, there's a taboo word: urinating, defecating, and copulating. We don't, okay. Then you come up to the stomach, okay. And Germans like to talk about their stomachs, but not Swiss people, okay. Then you come up to the solar plexus. Well, where are you? Where does most of your life go on? There was, as an African poetess, black lady, I forget her name, she said, a woman thinks with her belly. A man, he thinks with his heart. And a white devil, he thinks with his head. So she's a good lady. Sorry, lady. But you see how we different, okay, maybe you're 70% in your stomach. You got 5% in your head, 5%, but you're just walking around like looking at life, you know. Then maybe somebody else is completely ectomorphic. They're 80% in their head. You know, you don't even know if they're starving to death, you know? Yeah. So it's the same planetary system. Some are influenced by the moon, some are influenced by the sun, some are influenced by different things like that. So this is what it's talking about. And this is a level that his student is on. This is Sukadeva Goswami talking to Maharaj Parikshit, right? As explained by Sutta Goswami to the sages of Naimisharanya, as explained to Vyasadeva, as explained to us by Lord Chaitanya. Okay. And so Narada Muni is traveling on the airways, right? Yeah. Narada Muni there are wind ropes holding the planets together. They didn't know what was going on before Newton. What kind of knowledge did people have of gravity before Sir Isaac Newton? Yeah, I mentioned this before, right? 18 to 21 years old, he discovered the laws of optics, the laws of mechanics, the laws of gravity, and calculus. And he was taking a sterilized stick and pushing it behind his eyeball. That's what science was composed of, to push his optic nerve. They didn't know what they were doing. You know, it's just surprising they lived through it all and so on. He was really a neurotic guy too, not psychotic, but neurotic, really neurotic. He deserved it too. You know? Okay. So the laws of gravity, he came up with these observations, some very simple laws of gravity and so on, which doesn't at all deny what the Bhagavatam is talking about, but it's just a different way of looking at it. It's a different science. The science that we'll get in the Bhagavatam is like science 1A, B, C, you know. Then later on, somebody may go into physics, somebody may go into chemistry, somebody may go into, music, right? Gandharva Veda, Ayurveda, Vastu Veda, you find out what's your particular nature. But the basic principles are the same, principles like that. But you apply those in music, you apply those in architecture, you apply those in what? In Vastu, building bridges, right? Principles are the same, or in cooking even. So this is describing now the movements of the sun, now the orbits of the planet. 520, okay, so Narada Muni is traveling on wind ropes. He can, again, if you do karate, I had a black belt in karate, if you actually start practicing this stuff, you can actually begin to raise the prana up to the point where your body kind of disappears. It's really interesting. And you, in my school, what does it go? 3rd degree, this is like bad, you punch with your hand like that, you aim for these two, like whap, okay? This is worse when you can punch like that. This is the most mean, this is really bad, you can do that. So in my school, ranking master was 5th degree black belt. I think 3rd degree black belt, that's got 1st degree. They could punch knife hand through a piece of plywood. Plywood is worse than regular wood. These guys would go, so what would that do to your body? Something like that. Yeah, and you could see they understood how to concentrate the prana, which is totally incomprehensible to Western physics and everything else. And there were some techniques. At a certain point, you had to sign an oath to never reveal the secrets of the Uchiha karate school, but I didn't get quite to that level, so much. But some things they're using fire, passing their hands in fire. Yeah. So anyway, this is a whole big topic here. But that's what's happening. Narada Muni can concentrate his prana, he can suck it up, he can catch the wind ropes from the sun, and then this kind of float right out. That's no problem. The problem is going up or down to the orbit, to the orbit of different planets like that and so on. Yeah? It's a big topic here. Okay. So 522 describes the orbits of the planets. Venus is auspicious and produces rain. Do you see Venus in the morning when you're up? You go out, do you see her? You know, but the moon is a crescent now, but you see one very, very bright star in the morning before Mangalarti. That's Venus, the morning star. Auspicious, and produces rain. Then the moon is auspicious and produces food grains. Anna. He is the predominating deity of the mind, Manas. One place Prabhupada says, Aniruddha, Aniruddha is an incarnate, the mind is an incarnation of Aniruddha, the principal deities. Aniruddha is an incarnation of the sun, something like this. The mind is an incarnation of Aniruddha, who is a predominating deity of the sun, because the sun is the husband of the moon. Okay. He said, therefore it is impossible to keep good mental health without sufficient sunshine. Yeah. And John Denver did pretty well with the sunshine on my shoulders makes me happy. You know this song? You should look at it. It's a good song. Sunshine on my shoulders makes me happy. Sunshine in my eyes can make me cry. Sunshine on the water is so lovely. You know, sunshine almost always gets me high. It's a good song. Good song. You're a nice guy. Totally pantheistic guy. You know, he said he's always been inspired by nature and these kinds. Yeah, we say, well, sun is the incarnation of Krishna, like that. You look that up on the YouTube. It's nice. You know, you end up with something like 425 million hits or something. Yeah, because this is God. This is Krishna. Really appreciates that. He died in an airplane accident. He was a Gandharva, cursed to fly and stay on the earth for a certain number of years. Beautiful songs. You know, John Denver. Okay. Yeah. One time he did a big show, maybe like 6,000 people in the audience. He stopped the entire show and recited the entire Lord's Prayer. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be the name. The promoters were freaking out. What is going to happen? You know, and the crowd just broke out in cheers like that. He's a very nice guy. Okay. The moon is auspicious. It's impossible to keep good mental health without sufficient sunlight. Now, some people here are from the northwest on the coast there. Yeah. Anybody alcoholic up there? Yeah. There's a postcard you can buy if you're a tourist in Seattle, and it's just a gray kind of foggy thing, and it says, a typical winter's day in Seattle. If you rotate, it says, a typical spring day in Seattle. You rotate it again. Yeah, it's like 30 days of sunlight, pure sunlight in Seattle, maybe 30 days a year. It's one of the highest rates of alcoholism and suicide in America. So yeah, this is practical knowledge, really is. It's very practical. You study the Bhagavatam, yeah, I need some sunlight. Let me get some. The moon is auspicious and produces food grains, Anna. He is the predominating deity of the mind, Manas. Jupiter is auspicious for qualified brahmanas, okay? And Mercury is auspicious. Mars is mixed, and Saturn always inauspicious. And you notice, of course, the days of the week are exactly named after each planet like that. Señora, ¿cómo se llaman los días de la semana en español? Moon. Lunes, martes, Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, Saturn, dominant. Yeah. In Spanish is much clearer. Yeah. And we what? Domingo, which means dominant, which is sun, because sun's the great one. Yeah. So Thursday, which is Jupiter, is very auspicious for qualified Brahmins, but it is not a good day to travel. Probably on Thursday afternoon, probably wouldn't travel. One day we left the Rath Yatra in Vancouver, right? In the Sharanagati, with Kevin, to come back to the temple in Vancouver late at night. Come with me. And it was Ekadasi on Thursday or something. And we had this one after another. I can't believe it. He locked his keys in the trunk. The trunk popped up, the hood popped up. We were driving down the freeway with the hood popped up. I mean, it was just unbelievable. And I just kept chanting. And finally we pulled in to the temple. I looked at my watch. It was 1:08. 1:08. Okay. And I was almost killed. Taka Airlines almost crashed. The plane almost crashed, I was on Kadasi on a Thursday afternoon. So, I just, yep. Prabhupada wouldn't do it. We don't do it. Okay. So, and Saturn is always inauspicious. Today is Saturday, by the way. So, chant Hare Krishna and expect strange things to happen. Yeah. Today is the big day for material enjoyment, isn't it? Saturday is the day for material enjoyment, which is inauspicious. Behind the movements of the sun are the stars, fixed to the wheel of time, which can be imagined as a dolphin, like that, Shishumara, okay? 523.3 inspires us to make some specific comments. That's the next chapter. I'll just kind of talk ahead here. Prabhupada says, the question of how maybe I don't know, is this going to be mentioned? Okay, somebody else can do it again anyway. Okay, the question of how the planets and stars are, Prabhupada says, the question of how the planets and stars are floating is also answered in this verse, Prabhupada says, 523.3. It is not because of the law of gravity. Okay. And then I wrote, Srila Prabhupada seems to declare the law of gravity as nonsense and the scientists as nonsenses. However, we see him so often saying the material scientists. Several of Prabhupada's disciples were scientists. Newton, who proposed the law of gravity, was religious. To cut a long argument short, in the end, Srila Prabhupada says, quote, it could be that these adjustments constitute the law of gravity. But in any case, one must accept these laws are made by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The so-called scientists have no control over them. The scientists can falsely, improperly declare there is no God, but this is not a fact. Newton's declaration was that there are two books for understanding God, the Bible and nature, where God is writing with his own hand. Of course, these are all broad claims, and it is beyond the scope of these essays to go into depth. But such texts as Quantum Questions by Ken Wilber, it's a very, very nice book, very interesting, Ken Wilber. He took extracts from all the great scientists, and it was just amazing that their perspective and how they have a higher vision like that. It's very nice. Quantum Questions by Ken Wilber. And also Professor Harvey Cox. He did the keynote address for the First World Congress for a Synthesis of Science and Religion by the Bhaktivedanta Institute. And he gave a fantastic summary. Some book was published on the history of science. Okay. And so like that we begin to educate ourselves. Prabhupada says you should know a little bit about everything and a lot about one thing. Everybody should become expert at something. But as you do that automatically, the more you begin to connect up to everything else. That's the way reality works. You know your area. And in the end, nobody knows it like you. You've got your particular contribution to make. Yeah. And one example, how many people know Sadhaputta Das, have heard of him? Sadhaputta Das. He's our Iskcon scientist, Richard Thompson. He graduated in mathematical models of biological systems from someplace, and finally drowned in a swimming pool, But he was such a, mental, scientific guy, everything else like that. So, what are we talking about here? Oh yeah, the laws of gravity. Oh yeah. So in Spain, we're preaching there in Spain. Have you ever go to the castle? Have you been to Spain? The castle, outside of Madrid, very nice, okay. So there was one devotee there, a devotee of Bhakta. He was a PhD in physics. The devotees didn't know how to occupy the guy, okay. Okay, so they had him cleaning pots and stuff, And he had so many questions they couldn't answer. And generally speaking, Krishna's God, this and that stuff. And that's how he was carrying on with a general explanation, a little bit of intelligence, things like that. But okay, it's enough. It's first aid. We can give the scientist first aid, But then he had these specific questions, which you have to answer. Everybody has their specific questions. Many times when ladies come to our temple, they look out and see how the kids are being taken care of. Yeah, somebody else shows up. He's artistic, an art. Well, okay. So we have so many aspects where we're presenting Krishna consciousness. As you become more expert, and you can go in to approach people more in their field, their area. So anyway, he was there, and they told him, okay, this scientist, Iskcon scientist, is coming for a conference, and Sadhaputta Das, he's coming, Richard Thompson, okay. So Sadhaputta said, no, it was Bhakti Saranga Maharaj. He was there, and sannyasi, And he said, said that Sariputta arrived like maybe 11 o'clock at night or from his flight in Madrid and took rest. But he knew this guy was going to be there. They'd been telling him about him. So Bhakti Saranga Maharaj says he was sitting there with Keshava Bharati Maharaj, maybe one more person. They're talking to this Spanish, science guy. And he said that Sariputta walked in, and he said it was like Godzilla meets King Kong. It was, they both just like looked at each other. They knew, they knew immediately. It's just like they knew. When two thieves meet upon the road, they need no introduction. They know each other by sight. So it's like both. So he said, Sariputta kind of moved to the chair and sat down. His eye on the guy like that. And they started. The guy just asked his first question immediately, and Sariputta answered. And Bhakti Saranga Maharaj said it was just incredible. It was like data, information, logic going back and forth. And there was like a tape recorder like this. And he said he tried 3 times to reach the tape recorder, and every single time he reached for it, they both would like turn like that, He stopped, I'm sorry, I didn't. And it went on for 45 minutes. He's seen. One time I was asking Sadaputta's questions. I'm pretty sharp, okay, intellectually, okay, and I had to ask him to slow down a little bit. No, we've been on telephone maybe for 3 months. I was trying to ask him a question. So finally, I met him in San Diego. And I said to him, oh, that's what you want to know. Can you slow down a little bit? So he did a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit. And then I could actually understand what he was saying as he was saying. And basically, it's a lot of the questions I had and so on. So different people have different kinds of bodies, intelligence, everything else. It's very, very rare, I would say, maybe even never, to find an extremely advanced scientist who is emotionally well-adjusted. Newton was neurotic. Leibniz, who was the other guy, they had this continuous war going on, him and Leibniz and stuff, and involving everybody else. Einstein and Niels Bohr were going on, Yeah. And so I was, my role in the Bhaktivedanta Institute to some degree was simply trying to keep people from, from sitting in the corner and staring at the wall and stuff like that. Yeah. So everybody has their. One of the scientists in the Bhaktivedanta Institute was my friend Lokanath. We did the puppet tour for many years. It was nice. And his wife Maharani, she went to heaven, but she didn't know the difference between an atom and a molecule. How many? Everybody who knows the difference between an atom and a molecule, raise your hand. No. Okay. She didn't know, but she was a cook. She was good. Not just, it was very nice. It was nice combinations, not just like sweets or something, but very nice, So we had a conference in San Francisco, maybe one of the 3 we had. It was the first international seminar on the study of consciousness within science. Okay, and George Wald was there, a Nobel laureate. Sir John Eccles, Nobel laureate. E.G.C. Sudarshan, Nobel laureate candidate. So many big people, very, very prominent people. They really did a good job. And they were very happy too. They said, wow, all these people, we can discuss these things. And they were very happy that the Bhaktivedanta Institute could create an atmosphere. Jai Shishi that the Bhaktivedanta atmosphere, we had this broad perspective, which allowed them to look at things, from a nice perspective like that. So, what's going on there? Yeah. Oh, yeah. And so we had, very, very intense conferences, maybe 3 days at the University of California. We did 1 day a private seminar up in the mountains above Berkeley, beautiful hall. And then 2 days was Saturday and Sunday we're at the University of California Medical Center. It was a 600-seat hall. Every single seat was full. And then people were sitting on the aisles, and the fire marshal let them sit as long as they had one space there. And people were becoming. I was a doorkeeper for part of it. People were angry. They were, I want to go in. Sorry, you can't go in. Why not? They were really so attractive. The study of consciousness within science. We actually, the Bhaktivedanta Institute, were the first ones. We really were, and people admitted that afterwards. Yeah, you're the first guys who really did it. After that, there were more conferences. Big scientists, he said, science could just not deal with consciousness. How does it fit in? Is my lawnmower conscious? Now there's a computer which says that it's conscious. It's saying, is it really? Are you conscious? Yes, I am conscious. Yeah. So what is consciousness? And the guy said at a science conference before this, if you said consciousness, it would be like you said one of the, the words you can't say, the ABC word. Oh, he said the C word. I mean, it was like that. Someone mentioned consciousness, it was, oh, he said the C word. No, consciousness. They could not deal with it, And so Nobel laureates, George Wald, he said in my career as a scientist, I was dealing with eyeballs. That was my focus in biology, eyeballs. I've dealt with big eyeballs, little eyeballs. He said there's a shrimp in the warm waters of the Pacific which has stalks all over its body, and every single one of those has a mechanically functional eyeball. But I haven't the slightest of idea if it's conscious of anything that they see. Very, very good project like that and so on. So this was the First World Congress for a Synthesis of Science and Religion, and Harvey Cox did a very, very nice summary. So you find out about these things. Should I get involved in science? I hate science. I'm sick of it. Okay, Prabhupada wants it. I talked to Tamal Krishna Maharaj. Is it important to do science preaching? And he looked at me in this Tamal Krishna Maharaj energy, and he said, Prabhupada said over and over again for his entire last year, scientific preaching is my #1 preaching program. You idiot. Tamal Krishna Maharaj was like that, right? He was focused on that. Yeah. So that was the, I got a message, okay. that was the, okay. Well, yeah. Okay, very good. Thank you, good advice. Yeah. So, that was what Prabhupada's perspective. It is. They're the people who are influencing all of us. I can go on with so many interesting stories about how science, I'll tell you one here, okay, for the ladies. We had a small temple in San Francisco, a preaching center. The main temple was in Berkeley. And it's inner city. Kids are taking wine coolers at 14 years old or 12 years old and bringing guns to school. Tough area. So one girl, maybe she was like 16, she just kind of stopping in the temple there and stuff, and she started making friends with the ladies and helping making garlands and everything else. And you could see she was very attracted, And she started bringing her friends by, but she was saying again and again, why this, she was being sarcastic because she was becoming more attracted than she liked being, So she didn't tell me that, but she told the ladies that she was 16 years old and she'd already had 3 abortions. Yeah, she said, but I don't care. Yeah, because she cared a lot. Her life was basically ruined. By 16 years old, she'd already been pregnant 3 times and aborted 3 babies. This is not good for your life. Basically, why? Because science tells you, oh, don't worry, it's just a little chemical cleanup. Yeah, just a little chemical cleanup. Here's your medicine. Here's your $100. Take care of your little problem. This is science. Yeah. It comes down like this to very hellish practical realities and so on. So that's why Prabhupada was so determined about it. And most scientists, they don't know what they're doing, really. It's very depersonalized. In the army, you don't kill people, right? You eliminate the objective, totally depersonalizing language and stuff. Otherwise, the soldiers will not do it. First World War, something like 50% of the soldiers were not shooting to kill. 50% would not shoot to kill. And then they found that out, and they started to figure out what they had to do. So science it is very important to understand these things to some degree. And so anyway, the conversation went on. They referred this guy to Sadaputa, and he was the guy you should talk to. You should talk to somebody else. Brahmacharis and sannyasis are allowed short-term contact with ladies for preaching purposes only, okay? Yeah. So Berkeley, some very, very beautiful young co-ed comes into the Berkeley temple and very serious, okay. Talk to her a couple of minutes and then introduce her to one of the ladies. One very, very nice co-ed girl. It's very nice. She joined the temple and she was coqueteando, flirting with the brahmacharis. I mean, like it was nice. And with American standard, it was quite normal, but she was irritating all the brahmacharis like it. So then I was sitting there. Then Mother Maheshwari, she was like this 40-year-old, mother. She goes, calls her over, and I was standing nearby. I heard her talking to her, and I never would have talked like that to a young woman ever, so on. But I just heard like maybe 3 sentences, and I got out of there. Then after that, she was, yeah, it's like, so everybody, we have to find people who can be our gurus. If you're a scientist, you need someone like that. Other people may be totally bored with this class, right? What is he talking about, science? You know? Yeah. So these chapters are very nice. You understand them a little bit, get some idea, and see, okay, the Bhagavatam talks about science. You know? And the devotees can take these indications and expand them out very, very nicely like that. You know? Yeah. So here it's saying, we have very, very good books. We have our basic understanding of the thing. What is the law of gravity? And that's just about it. Okay, yeah. So next 2 chapters we'll talk a little bit more about this. And today we're supposed to take one verse, number. What verse is it? Number 8, right? Okay. So, because these verses, most of them, this is text number 8. You got it? This again is prose. Evam chandrama arka garbhastibyam uparistal laksha yojanata upalabhya mana riksha samvatsara bhuktim prakashabhyam masa bhuktim sabara sapadarkshabhya denaiva paksha bhutim agrachari dutatara gamo bhukte. Wow. Above the rays of the sunshine, by a distance of 100,000 yojanas, 800,000 miles, is the moon. Now, this is a whole separate topic. It takes maybe half an hour to explain this, why the sun is closer to the earth than the moon. Yeah, but it's totally comprehensible once you go through Sariputta's entire book and understand what's actually being said. Okay, so the moon is above the sun, farther away from the earth than the sun, which travels at a speed faster than the sun. In 2 lunar fortnights, the moon travels through the equivalent of a samvatsar of the sun. In 2.25 days, it passes through a month of the sun. And in 1 day, it passes through a fortnight of the sun. Prabhupada's purport. When we take into account that the moon is 100,000 yojanas or 800,000 miles above the rays of the sunshine, it is very surprising that the modern excursions to the moon could be possible. Since the moon is so distant, how space vehicles could go there is a doubtful mystery. Modern scientific calculations are subject to one change after another. Yeah. And therefore they are uncertain. We have to accept the calculations of the Vedic literature. These Vedic calculations are steady. The astronomical calculations made long ago and recorded in the Vedic literature are correct even now. When the Vedic calculations or modern ones, whether the Vedic calculations or the modern ones are better, may remain a mystery for others. But as far as we are concerned, we accept the Vedic calculations as correct. Now again, this is the 5th canto, right? And Prabhupada is saying this after gone through so many, this cosmology is presented again and again and again. And so by the time you come to these, you already see that, yeah, there's a lot of basis for this. So at this point, we will now see if anybody has any questions. Oh. Or comments. Yes, yeah. The microphone. There's one here. You got one there. That's the one. Okay. Wow. Little dun dun dun. Little dun 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 dun. You should travel on the airwaves. You can pass it through the air.
That would be nice. Okay. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yeah, let's do this slow, then I can repeat it for the camera here.
Okay. Thank you so much for class, by the way.
Thank you very much for your class, by the way.
Okay. I was just curious, the comments that you made earlier about when we were holding our breath. And
okay, she's just curious about the comments I made earlier about holding our breath.
And you were saying that if we were to hold our breath or all these things for a certain time.
And I was saying for a certain time we could go back to Godhead.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. And you were saying that this is the way to go back to Godhead. But I'm just curious, is it a state of mind or is it really a place? Because I feel I have met some people that seem like they're in the spiritual world already while being here.
Is it a state of mind or is it a place? Yeah. Oof. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Do you have 6 days and 6 nights? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. How to condense this? No, it's a common phrase. It says, how does it go? Some people can go 3 weeks without food. Some people can go 3 days without water, but it's very rare to find somebody who can go 3 minutes without air. So there's a whole story of Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj, he was chanting his mantra, and he gave up eating. Okay, then he kept on chanting, he gave up drinking water, then he gave up breathing, and then he started to identify with the entire universe and so on. So yeah, you can, even I know Western people taking up different yoga. There are different yoga resources, different yoga teachers, and they teach you about elevation to different levels of consciousness. Yeah? Again, somebody may be in their Muladhara chakra. They operate a jackhammer for the city, and for lunch they have corned beef sandwich with whiskey, for lunch, and visit the girls upstairs sometimes. Yeah, and this we don't talk about, but that's their consciousness. You try and talk to the person, it's like it's like gross. Yeah, they have maybe 70% of their consciousness in their lower chakras, and what am I feeling? What am I experiencing? How am I defecating? Oh, that's good. That was a good defecation. Yeah, and it's just, you think people exist like this, right? Yeah, but for us, it's like, yeah. How can you do that? Yeah, because you become blind, you become dark, you don't see anything which is high. Socrates said the same thing in his last dialogue. So these are different planetary systems. This is reflected here. If the guy comes up with the stomach, then he's going to won't have ulcers, right? He's going to get free from his ulcers by watching what his eating is doing to his stomach. A little higher than it's how, I'm not going to fall asleep because of the way I'm eating, and all the oxygen is sucked down into my diaphragm, Yeah? So anyway, our consciousness, where is it? Okay, maybe somebody else, their consciousness is maybe like 2% in their lower chakras, and maybe 70% in their heart. Right? You meet someone like that, and they talk to you, and it's like, you have this relationship. This person's heart-to-heart conversation. This person doesn't want to just yeah? And so, yeah, the body is an echo of all these things. Yeah. It's an echo. Everything in the material world is an echo from Krishna, right? Okay, yeah. So Krishna is a person. So then Brahma is a person. Indra is a person. We have bodies. The body. Yeah. So time and space. Space is generated by sound. It's very subtle. Music, what is music? It's tone and meter, one. Then you start to get the music and organizing the music. From that, then you organize your tactile experiences. From that, you organize the colors. It's a very progressive thing. It's a big topic, But you see, that's how it works. One time we had a very, very good kirtan with Titikshava Karunika, one of the most famous musicians in Iskcon. I just come off the altar after dressing the deities for 2.5 hours. My visual cortex was stimulated beyond belief, And I came off, and the kirtan's going on at 7 o'clock, and I could see where some sound was missing. Right? I could see, there's a sound missing there. So, I could see it. So I started playing the kartals like that, putting it in. And he said, "Forward." Yeah. Because I was, experiencing the sound as like a visual thing, which is more. Which we're more experienced, conditioned to that. But somebody else, they're just on the level of sound and mantras. That's where they exist. Yeah. And somebody else. So yeah, we go through these different levels. And for somebody who's on the level of tactile level to somebody on the gross level, they seem like they're in the spiritual world. Well, no, it's not spiritual. Then above that is the psychological level, right? The mental level, then the intellectual level. Maharloka, Janaloka, then Brahmaloka. And then we're in the spiritual world. In the spiritual world, there's no time or space. Wow. How do you function? Yeah. I mean, it's very nice. We're all gathered together here for the evening program, and we're having a class now, and then maybe a little bit the deities will be changed into their pajamas, and time to take rest, and we can all go home and go to bed. You're carrying a clock with you, right? Everybody here is conscious that this is the morning. How many people here think it's the morning and not the evening? You're carrying a clock around with you, right? You know, which direction is the Gurunga Hall? This is interesting. Guys will be a lot better at this than girls will. You know, this is, you know, part of the body, but girls are a lot better at smelling things. You know, much more aesthetic than guys are. There are gender differences in terms of space perception and everything else. You know. So does that help a little bit? Yeah. So as you become more purified, then you can recognize that this person is not just in, you know, the intellectual level. They're actually in the spiritual world. You know. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes. Any other question or comment here? This microphone's passing. My goodness.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Oh, Hare Krishna. Oh, he's got
Thank you for the nice words. Maharaj, Bhagavatam is talking about all this planet, Venus, Mercury, Moon, and this planet position does impact the nature, right? So what is the position of astrology in the Krishna consciousness?
Okay. So his question is, what is the position of astrology? Because we're talking about all these planets. And again, you have to understand that, you know, modern science is extremely biased toward the sense of vision, right? Like you try to see everything. This room is, you're conscious of how this room is arranged visually, right? And how you were dressed visually, you know. Did you just pick out any glasses, or did you look at them first and how you look in them? Did you look at them first? Yeah. How do I look? But were you wondering about how they feel? You know, a little bit maybe, you know, but really, you know, okay, maybe more important how they feel. You know, if a dog came in, what would you see if a dog came? If your puppy came in, maybe you get a puppy over at the farm. If he came in here, you know, ordinary scent hound is 100,000 times more sensitive, as Britannica says. I remember, the dogs that smell, you know, they're 100,000 times more sensitive than a human being for distinguishing smell. The really good ones are 1,000,000 times. Old Colonel, he was a bloodhound. God, he was, you know, he was incredible, you know, old Colonel. Yeah. So, anybody stop to smell what this room smells like? Just smell here. You smell anything? No? Almost nothing, right? This is America. We don't want to smell. We're a smelly country. You go to India. India is a smelly country, right? Right? Sometimes it's nice, sometimes it's bad, but they have all these smells. It's for the Westerners, like it smells. Yeah. So we want to see everything, you know. Yeah. Anybody here think you can go skateboarding in India? There's probably not 20 continuous feet of sidewalk in India. So, yeah, America. Yeah, so it's just they have different way of looking at everything, right? So astrology is looking at how these things influence you. What percentage of your body is made of water? I mean, what percentage of your body is water? 10%? About 75% water. Okay. So if the sun and the moon are both above us, what happens to the water in your body? You have ever seen low tide? In San Francisco, I saw it was freaky. It was just like all this stuff started becoming exposed. Wow, yeah. All the water on the earth, you know, goes to the other side. So if your body is the sun and the moon are above you astrologically, all the water in your body is going up, you know, and if they're both below you, all the water in her yeah. So right away. And then, of course, there's talking about what to speak of the intellectual level. That exists. It's real. And so the different planets are representing, Jupiter is representing Brihaspati, who is Indra's god, who's thoughtful and everything else. So when he's having his influence, our intellects become bright, sharp, we can do things. Indra is, the hands are a representation of Indra. So when Indra goes to sleep, you're all thumbs. You cut yourself when you're in the kitchen. You just, okay, it's not a time for manual activities. Yeah. So it has this result. Prabhupada said it's very, very difficult science. Of all the sciences, it's the most difficult. Jyotish, astrology, he said. Bhanu Swami, our expert in Iskcon, says, yeah, I think the birth chart, the birth, death, and occupation you can figure out pretty well. Because usually those are pretty common, you know. But other than that, details and different days and so on. Hansaduta told me that Prabhupada said in the Kali Yuga, if 6 astrologers agree on something, it's probably true. That's how difficult it is. Vastu, other things, maybe not so bad. So Bhakti Siddhanta, that was the science he knew, and so on. So yeah, so we accept that exists, and sometimes we see things happening, but we kind of depend upon Krishna to adjust them. We follow Ekadasi, some basic things. And yeah, Bhanu Swami is saying, you know, some basic things, somebody's good devotee, good character, that they can tell you, this is your birth, this is your death, this is your occupation. Yeah. Other than that, mostly we depend upon Krishna. But if you find people, you know, probably wrote a letter to the temple president in New York, you can use astrology to try and arrange the marriages, boys and girls and stuff. So we use it as much as we can find somebody who can do it. Yeah. Okay, so we want to stop here. And I hope this hasn't been as painful for you as it has for me. This is difficult. All this stuff. So I want to thank everybody. And at 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock, we'll be over in the Goswami Academy. If anybody wants to register for Pablo Rivas Plazas, will be telling us all about how to win the Oscar. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Back to Godhead.
Couple of things. Oh no, I don't want to be there. As long as it's temporary, I don't care. The army has changed their position on that.
Astrology?
No, on the killing people.
Oh yeah? How would you say killing them?
After Vietnam,
Yeah.
they started researching why is it.
Yeah.
And then they came to the conclusion that humans don't kill other humans unless they really feel threatened. So they changed the targets from round to human, like the waist up. They changed the targets when the army teaches the military how to, the soldiers how to shoot to human shapes. Where you see it now, where you see the head, the shoulders, down to the waist.
Like circles.
The places where you can kill a person with one bullet. Not always. And they're identified as the threat through all their training. And guess who hires ex-military people?
I don't know.
The police.
Oh yeah.
And the fire department. Their preference is military. So they only see a threat and they shoot. Which is their whole total understanding of what's going on these days. They're not thinking. They're automatically just empty a gun.
No, that's the whole thing. We got to learn to be programmed to do it.
Yeah, they teach people to not see a person, but to see a threat. And you can't get that out of your system.
There's psychology and war. It's a big deal.
Yeah, yeah, but this one of our devotees in Dallas, her son's a captain in the military. So we were having this whole discussion. I said, what's going on in the police department? Because they hire mostly military people.
There's very few, I think maybe 100,000 or 200,000 people left who actually lived during World War II.
Yeah.
And stuff and that.
Yeah, it's very few.
We're doing interviews and stuff. And so many times the guys are describing things like that happen, scenes like that. These guys are like, they're starting to cry and stuff. And they're like 80 years old. And they're saying, see, those things, it's as bright to me as the day it happened. So those things are just...
Yeah, they don't forget.
See, I don't want to. They just don't go away. So maybe then next lifetime even. But the psychology of Kshatriya psychology we're talking about. And it's different than Shudra and Vaishya and Brahmana. The psychological training. Yeah. But yeah, it's this. Yeah. And that's the way too, because when Bhima and these guys were doing it was a game, right? There were certain rules and stuff.
Yeah.
And if somebody got killed or something, that was just...
And they did it somewhere away from the city. They're not doing it like the Russians are doing it now. Take it one city, then the next, and then just blow it to the ground.
There's how many people, how many civilians died? Yeah, things like that, you know, in each war. When you project the Third World War, 97% survived.
And here,
Anyway,
something better.
goodbye here.
Something to look.
Krishna.
Something to look forward to tomorrow morning. When you walk to the temple, when you walk to the temple tomorrow morning, look at the sun, the moonrise, or just in general to the east, and you'll see, or at least today particularly and yesterday, Venus is here, the moon is here, Mars is here.
Oh my gosh.
No, and Mars is here.
Oh.
Saturn is here, and Jupiter is there. It's like a whole arc going across the sky.
You can see them all?
Yeah, it started on the best viewing was Friday morning, but we're talking Friday morning at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock.
In the Houston smog.
You can only see it to the east. Well, it's only as stars you see in the sky right now. Actually, it's all planets. There are no stars out there because I looked. The North Star you can't see today.
No. One guy from New York, Presaka, he said, I don't trust air, I can't see. When I was graduating from college, with my friends, we went up, into the Sierras, and it was clear. And I went out at night, it was actually terrifying, because the entire sky was just full of stars. It was just like...
Yeah, I mean, the Milky Way, you understand why they called it that.
Yeah.